And when I came here, when I left here, the next day I went to see the doctor because I had to be taking checkup every day. And he said, Wanda says, you're going to have to straighten up your affairs because you only have 30 days to be here. And so I went to him and I says, would you check me again? I says, I like to get the brain scan and the electronics all over my body to see how bad my cancer is. So I went to Palomar and I had this whole checkup and it came out clear. The whole thing came out clear. And the doctor gave me the results. He says, Wanda Dunbar, he says, you have no cancer at all throughout your body, not even on your brain, like you had it so bad. He says, I can't understand this. I says, it's just my faith in Jesus and Mother Mary. He says, I went to this meeting here. I says, I told him all about the meeting here. He says, and my faith was so big that I know. The doctor said, well, if everybody had the faith you have, he says, you put all of us doctors out of business.
Is that right? And it was from making a vigil here at Bayside that you suddenly got better?
Yes, I was very badly off when I came here. I couldn't hardly walk or talk.
That is fantastic.
In bad shape.
Thank you very much, Wanda. That's a beautiful testimonial. Where are you from, and what is your name?
My name is Alfred Richards. I'm from Flint, Michigan. We were here the weekend of August 5th of 1984.
And has something very special happened to you here on the grounds?
It sure did. I came on the grounds on crutches in extreme pain. And I sat in the enclosed area. And about 9:30, 10 o'clock, somebody was pulling my right leg. It went all directions. And I probably went through maybe half hour of this, or even less. Then eventually I got up and I braced the crutches under my arms and I stood there, and then I just had to get away from the grounds. And that's when I, on the crutches, went back to our bus, and that's where I stayed. I never did come back to the grounds after that. And I continued on to the crutches up to the hotel room. And then later in the evening I went after some ice, and I had to go down 3 steps to where the ice machine was. I come back up the 3 steps. I probably went 50 feet, and something says, why are you on your crutches?
You actually heard a voice?
Yes. And I says to myself, why am I? And I pulled them off from underneath me and I took off walking.
Amazing.
And my wife heard me coming down the hall, and she come to the door because she didn't believe it herself.
And did she say, what are you doing?
Well, I don't remember what she said. I don't really remember what she said. But I think she was in shock herself. And the next morning, we were a little bit late getting to Mass. Somebody told us the wrong time, and we had to hurry, and I'm carrying my crutches into church, and everybody on the bus is standing there with their mouths open because they don't believe what they're seeing. And I laid my crutches in the pew in front of us. Nobody was sitting there, and that's where they've been more or less ever since.
Yes, that's really a tremendous story. Since 1970, you were on crutches. Just shortly after the vigil.
On and off, I was on the crutches.
And you have never worn them since?
I must say, yes. I stepped on one of the kids' toys and I tore up my right foot in September. And I had to be on the crutches for 2 more months, but not because of my hips and the Paget's disease.
Gee, that's...
My right hip has never ached since then.
And this is your wife beside you.
This is my wife, Bethany.
And what's your reaction to his being no longer needing crutches?
I'm still amazed.
You're still amazed.
Lorraine Slagus from Bayonne, New Jersey.
I understand you're totally new to Bayside. This is the very first time you're here on these grounds. You just attended a meeting in Bayonne just days ago, and I understand your rosary has just changed color.
Yes, it has. It was silver this morning when I left home, and I put it in my pocket, and when I went to reach for it, it's all gold.
And what do you think Our Lady is trying to tell you by changing it to gold?
She's telling me to pray the rosary more often. I always carry these with me wherever I go, but they were never this color.
And are you really impressed?
Yes, I am. I'm very emotional right at this point.
Mary Andreotti from South Jersey.
I came to Bayside in 1981, and I had glaucoma for about 21 years, or 20 years at the time, and I never expected a cure. And I came to the shrine, I asked Our Lady verbally to cure me, and I just kept really putting off putting a petition in. Then I put a petition in, and then I used the rose petals on my eyes, and I went to the doctor in the Bullseye Hospital, and he examined my eyes. Then he told me that I didn't have glaucoma. My eyes were very healthy, and to stop using the eye drops. And I had used them for 21 years. And the doctor that diagnosed it said that I would never be cured because of the type of glaucoma that I had. He said it was something that you have to live with, and you have to use drops 4 times a day, and if you don't use them, you go blind. I couldn't see to dry that night before because my pupils were very, very tiny from the medication. So right after I got the cure was on December 6th, and then I went the next day. I drove up to Bayside.
Kathleen De Patti from Southville, Massachusetts.
Something very unusual happened to you in the parish church in the morning?
At St. Anne's.
At St. Anne's.
Well, before that, I had been asking St. Michael about receiving in the hand because so many did, and I didn't.
You
And
were
I
having
thought-
doubts about receiving
Well,
it?
I thought I was being a pain in the neck. So I got dressed and went up to Mass and communion. I didn't think of anything again. But when I went to receive communion, the priest didn't even touch the host. He reached for the host, and it went up around his head and around, then around his body. And he turned and round himself, and then he reached and he cut it. He went to place it on the altar, and I said, Father, I will consume it. And he gave me the host. And the woman behind me saw what happened, and I don't believe the woman behind her did. But the both of us cried all day long.
You and the priest saw it. And what was the priest's reaction?
I went after Mass, I went to the priest and I said, Father, you can blame St. Michael for this episode. I said, and he said, it surrounded me. It surrounded me.
The host.
The host. I just feel that the Lord doesn't want us to receive in the hand.
Anne Marie from Wall Township, New Jersey.
One night, me and my brother and my nephew were playing football because I'm a football fan. And my brother threw the football to my nephew, and my nephew ran. I went to block him, and his head hit my nose. And
What happened to your nose?
my nose was bleeding and everything like that, and it broke. And I went inside, and my mother cleaned it and everything, and I rested it. And after that, the next day, I broke it again, like 3 more times.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, I had intense pain. So I put a rose petal on my nose, and I said a few prayers. And I told my mother that my nose was tingling. And then she came over, I took the rose petal off, and everybody in my house could see my nose shrink.
I'm actually from Kalamazoo, Michigan.
All right.
And before I learned of the apparitions here at Bayside from a family friend, I was in fact a devout atheist and not believing in any religion.
Uh-huh. And what made you interested in Bayside?
I learned from a family friend about the apparitions and went to a Bayside meeting and saw the Miraculous photos, which convinced me that there was something here that I should at least investigate to find out to myself if it was real. And in investigating Bayside further, I found out to my satisfaction that it was something that I wanted in my life. And I followed through on that and was a believer in Bayside and converted to Catholicism before coming to Bayside itself. Well, Bayside was